My hands lightly grip the steering wheel. The music softly fades into the natural sounds of the open windows. The smell of a cool summer evening flows into the cabin, mixing with the slight, distinct smell of an AC leaking Freon. My mind drifts between different memories while cruising this familiar back road. Memories of better times. Memories of the person who used to sit next to me while driving through this shortcut. I say shortcut because it's really only a minute or two faster than the main road. Slower if you get behind a driver who's a little too safe for their own good. Although I guess that's rarely relevant now. Really, I just took this route because it was more fun. Better than the straight line most people took to travel America. And of course, the memories that come from this old road. The good and the bad. My mind fades back into existence shortly as I see the infamous bend ahead of me. My eyes focus on the road as I reach the bend, braking hard and pressing my foot onto the clutch, quickly downshifting into second gear before entering the turn. Entering the apex, I give the car some gas, shooting the revs high and slinging the rear end of the car out. I keep the gas pedal pressed, balancing the amount of pressure to keep the car from gaining traction to correct itself, but also not too much as to lose control of the power slide. As I leave the apex of the bend and cross into the double yellow, a smirk crosses my face as I correct myself and look into the rearview mirror. A flock of birds spring from the grass surrounding the roads, scarred to the skies as the engine screams to the red line and well into third gear. I get a burst of excitement out of my system and slow down as I shift into fifth gear, a cruising, gas-saving gear. I press the plastic cruise control button as my mind begins to wander again, this time wondering if this is what the founding forefathers of America had imagined. An open road in nature, a man traveling in this free land, gun and Mustang by his side. Before the thought can continue, I slam on the brakes and make a slight right turn. The car's brakes make screeching noises, and traction control kicks in as I slide to a halt. My eyes focus on the road ahead of me. Through the sun setting in the trees, a man is spotlighted in the middle of the road, laying down head first in a pool of blood. I quickly examine my surroundings, glaring through the woods that I encroach around me. I slide my hand to the holster that's strapped in the footwell next to my leg and pull out a handgun. I slowly pull the door handle, swinging the heavy door out into the middle of the road. I step outside of the car, keeping the engine running. Another glance of my surroundings. Nothing. I flip the handgun safety off. I walk around the front of the car, handgun raised towards the man, quickly realizing that he's moved on from this realm. I still keep the handgun trained on him, walking cautiously. As I reach him, I nudge the body with my foot, examining him for any breathing or movement. Again, nothing. I walk closer and examine the body's various tears and wounds all over. I knew what had happened before I even stepped out of the car, but I had to make sure. I crouch down and examine his neck and head. Nothing of note. Maybe he was lucky. Maybe he got to pass in peace. I carefully flip the man's body over again, examining the head. I start to write off my fears before spotting a very distinct puncture hole under his chin. My eyes grow wide. I raise my gun, but I see movement inside the hole, and his body starts to violently shake, as if he was having a seizure. I'm too late. I quickly holster my gun in the back of my pants and run away towards my car, pulling the remote start key from my pocket. I double tap the trunk button, causing it to release the trunk's hinge with the unforgettable rattling of metal. I swing around the side of the car and pull the lid the rest of the way. Inside, I reach and grab the 12-gauge strapped to the back wall of the trunk, while my hands work to flip the safety off the shotgun and rack a shell. I keep my eyes trained onto the body over the top of my car. The body violently convulses. The man's head slams against the pavement over and over, making loud cracking noises and causing blood to pour from his skull. I rack the first shell of buckshot and begin to make my way around the front of my car. My eyes are trained on the body as its skin starts to rip and tear, spewing gore across the old faded road. Sharp bones spring from the body's arms, making blade-like weapons. The mutation of his arms is so violent that it tears his upper right shoulder from the torso. It now only hangs by various remaining muscles and tendons. His legs start to elongate and twist, turning into dog leg-like shapes. My attention gets drawn to the head as I round the car. Even from this angle, I can tell the back of his skull is completely caved in. But it doesn't stop the lower jaw from unhinging and extending out past the upper jaw. His teeth mutate and turn sharp and long, almost needle-like. The creature begins its howling screech, like a sound of slamming on a car's brakes, but with an ever-present gurgling sound. I don't waste a second longer while it's still on the ground. I shoulder the shotgun and take aim. My hands are steady, but sweaty. I'm still not sure if the nervous sweat will ever go away. I aim at the upper chest and neck region and pray. My finger tightens around the trigger as the last thought echoes through my head. I hope this is the only one. The shot kicks into my shoulder like a mule, though it rings true and blows off large portions of the creature's upper body and arms. It convulses a few more times before sputtering out and going limp. I begin to let out a breath of relief before it begins to move once again. It starts to stand up and I instantly rack another shot and aim again, allowing me one last look at the creature as it stands up hunched over. And somehow this 5'9", maybe 5'10" foot man easily stood 7 feet tall. I let another shot ring, this time hitting the creature's center mass, blowing it off its feet and onto its back once again. More flesh and body parts get flung all over the road. It twitches and tries to move again. I rack another shot and fire again, blowing its entire head and upper torso off and away from the rest of the body. I rack another shell and run closer, over to the upper body. The head dangles off its corpse now, revealing the top of a spinal cord. Attached to said spinal cord is a large, worm-like creature. It looks like it's integrated and formed itself to the surrounding flesh and spinal cord. I aim at the worm, and I let another shot fly. More body parts fly and more gore stains the street. The upper body in complete disarray, even less recognizable than it was before. I slowly walk up and cautiously examine the body. I use the shotgun to push aside all the, goop before finding the spine once again. I trace up to the top, where I find the worm still barely clinging to life. I raise my foot and stomp on the corpse, putting an end to whatever terror it never got to cause. I take a step back and scrape my boot off on the pavement. I stare at the scene before me in thought. Somehow, I don't think this is what the Founding Fathers dreamed of. Almost like a sign, the sunset that was piercing the tree line onto the pavement starts to fade, as the sun is slowly covered by the mountains in the distance. I take that as my cue to leave. I throw the shotgun back into the trunk and get back into my car, speeding away like I was running from a crime. I swerve past the gore and hammer on the throttle as I hit the open road once again. I look in the rearview mirror as the scene fades into the background. They're getting closer to home. My perimeter is getting smaller.